Welcome to the Kingdom of the Chosen, a space where revelations are not theory but confirmation. Today, you are not here by chance. Something greater has brought you to this message, and what is about to be revealed can completely change the way you see your life, your purpose, and the time you thought you had wasted. Don't press pause. Don't distract yourself, because what comes next is not fleeting motivation. It is divine alignment. Are you ready to discover why heaven is repositioning you right now? So take a deep breath and come with us when heaven decides to sponsor your journey. In early 2008, a young woman named Mariana decided to invest everything she had into a small cake shop in the neighborhood where she grew up. It was not the ideal time. The economy was in crisis, she had 2 young children, and there was no guarantee that it would succeed. Friends would say, "You're crazy, this place doesn't even have any business." But there was something stronger inside her, an inexplicable conviction that this wasn't just her doing it. A few months later, something curious happened. A local influencer, almost by chance, passed by, tried one of the cakes and shared the experience on his social media. In 48 hours, what was once an invisible little shop became a landmark in the city. Where did this come from? They asked. The answer could not be written in a spreadsheet. It was not marketing. It was alignment. And that brings us to a question. Is it possible that there are times when heaven literally decides to invest in you, even when everything around you screams that it's impossible? The answer is yes. Not only is it possible, it's exactly what's happening in your life right now. The truth is that there comes a point in your spiritual journey where your own efforts are no longer the dominant force. Something greater takes over. You stop relying on what's in your pocket and start being sustained by what has been released from above. This change doesn't start without. It starts within. It's almost as if your soul begins to recognize an invisible frequency, a signal that the time has come. The world is full of stories like Mariana's, people who were on the brink of collapse with no idea how to proceed. And then something happened. An unexpected contact. An opportunity that wasn't in the plan. A financial relief that came without explanation. When this happens, it's not luck. It's divine intervention. You didn't get here by chance. There is a purpose at work. And this first part is the starting point to understand why, when heaven decides to sponsor you, there is no force on earth that can stop it. Become a part of our spiritual family. Subscribe to the channel today and comment "I believe" below as a symbol that you accept your role in this great transition. Let your energy be counted among the chosen ones. The time is now. Chapter: Time that seemed lost was never in vain. How many times have you looked back and thought, "If only I had started sooner, maybe my life would be different today"? This feeling of being late, of having wasted opportunities, is one of the mind's most silent traps. But what if what you call wasted time is actually part of a plan that is still unfolding? The Bible, in Joel 2:25, makes a little understood but profoundly powerful promise. "I will restore the years that the locust has eaten." This sentence is not talking about objects or resources. It is talking about time. And time, once passed, cannot be recovered, except by divine intervention. Throughout history, we find examples of restorations that defy logic. In 538 BC, by order of King Cyrus of Persia, the people of Israel, who had been exiled in Babylon for almost 70 years, were allowed to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the destroyed temple. This was not just a physical return, but a restitution of years of loss, erased identities, and fragmented faith. They not only reclaimed their land, they reclaimed the time that captivity tried to steal. This is exactly what heaven is doing with you now. It doesn't matter how much time seems to have been wasted. Broken relationships, abandoned projects, shelved dreams. Divine justice does not act based on our haste, but rather at the right time to restore completely. And that time has come. Recent research from Stanford University suggests that people who believe in spiritual meaning for their challenges are up to 32% more emotionally resilient than those who see no purpose in their losses. This proves that when we understand that nothing was in vain, We find strength where before there was only frustration. You are not starting over from scratch. You are moving forward with experience, maturity, and clarity. What comes next will be like an accelerator from heaven. A phase where doors open more easily, right connections emerge, and what used to take years can happen in months. Time was not wasted. It was planted. And now, you are entering the harvest. Your journey is just beginning. It's time to regain your strength and build a new path. Subscribe to the channel and be part of this community that is awakening to the truth. Chapter: The New Season. From Lack to Plenitude. For a long time, we were taught to think of abundance as synonymous with money. A positive balance in the bank, bills paid on time, material achievements. But the truth is that the most suffocating emptiness is not always in the wallet. Often, it is in the heart. Scarcity isn't limited to the economy. It takes hold in our souls when we become accustomed to living in fear, constant anxiety, fragile relationships, and the feeling that nothing is ever enough. And perhaps the biggest mistake is to normalize this absence, to accept lack as the norm. But what changes when this logic is broken? Abundance in the spiritual concept means full supply. It is when not only the body is taken care of, but also the mind finds rest and the spirit aligns with its purpose. This is what Jesus meant in John 10:10. I have come that they may have life, and have it more abundantly. Life in the plural, life in all directions. This does not mean an absence of challenges, but rather the presence of balance. Imagine someone who, even when facing a difficult diagnosis, manages to maintain peace. Or a person who, without great resources, transforms the environment where he lives only with his active hope. This is emotional prosperity. This is inner wealth. In 2021, a study published by the World Happiness Report revealed that people with high levels of gratitude and active faith had greater satisfaction with life regardless of income. This reinforces what spirituality has been proclaiming for centuries. Well-being begins within. You are being called to this new state. It is not a promise of sudden wealth, but of stability that comes from above. Enough of cycles of suffering, of living counting the pennies of your joy, of waiting for approval to breathe a sigh of relief. This is a phase in which you cease to be governed by lack and become driven by purpose. Peace becomes your foundation, trust your guide, and divine care your security. It is the end of a cycle marked by uncertainty, and the opening of a reality where enough will never again be an unattainable goal, but a starting point. It's time to regain your strength and build a new path. If this video resonates with you, don't stop here. Click subscribe now and discover the next step in your transformation. Chapter: When Heaven Takes Over the Expenses. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you have done everything you can, tried every possible solution, and still nothing has worked? It is precisely at this point where human effort meets its limit that supernatural provision begins to manifest. The idea that the divine can take on the role of direct sustainer of our journey may seem bold, but it is an ancient one. Since biblical times, we have seen accounts of times when resources came not from people, but from the creative source itself. One of the clearest examples of this is in the story of Elijah. During a time of great drought in Israel, recorded in 1 Kings 17, he was fed by ravens and drank water from a secluded stream. There was no human system sustaining this prophet. It was a spiritual network of supply, entirely orchestrated by God. Today, the format may be different. You may not receive bread through birds, but the logic remains the same. When purpose is aligned, provision presents itself in unexpected ways. In 2022, a survey conducted by the Barna Group showed that 67% of practicing Christians reported receiving material, emotional, or spiritual support in situations where no human solution seemed possible. This points to something more than coincidence. It points to a divine system at work. The logic of divine providence challenges the scarcity model. It does not depend on resume, connections, or assets. It depends on trust, positioning, and sensitivity, to recognize when it is God who is acting behind the scenes. This form of support is not just to alleviate momentary needs. It exists to enable eternal purposes. When heaven decides to invest in someone, it is not just so that the person will survive. It is so that they will impact, transform, and build something that will bring life to others. You may be living exactly that point right now, where there are no logical explanations for the precautions that arise, the doors that open, or the solutions that appear even before the crisis arrives. When the Creator sponsors your mission, nothing is lacking, because He who calls also sustains. Share this knowledge with the world. Together we can spread this message and help more people become free. Subscribe to the channel and send this video to anyone who needs to hear this truth. Chapter: You were not chosen by chance. Some people live their lives as if they are just passing through, waiting for something extraordinary to happen so they can believe they have a purpose. But the truth is, the calling has already been made, and many people just don't hear it because they are too busy trying to fit into places they were never meant to be. You are not here by mistake. From the beginning, there is a spiritual mission associated with your existence. It is not just any task nor something randomly distributed. It is a sacred assignment, precisely planned, shaped according to your essence and your life experiences. In Jeremiah 1:5, God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This statement reveals that purpose comes before we even realize it. It is not created over the course of our lives. It is discovered. It was already there, waiting to be revealed. Being chosen is not about feeling superior, but about understanding the responsibility of carrying something that is not just yours. You carry answers that other people are still searching for. You carry visions that will transform environments. You carry a kind of presence that changes atmospheres without even saying a word. According to a study published in Psychology of Religion and Spirituality, 2021, people who perceive a sense of spiritual calling report higher levels of personal satisfaction and a sense of lasting contribution to the world around them. This shows that recognizing yourself as someone with a greater mission doesn't just change the way you live, it also changes how you affect those around you. But be careful. The recognition of this calling is not always accompanied by applause. Often, it is perceived behind the scenes, when you choose to do the right thing even without an audience, when you remain steadfast even without confirmation. It is in this place of silence that heaven sees your faithfulness. You were set apart for something beyond the ordinary. And as much as you may have felt out of place in many environments, that feeling was just a reminder. You were never meant to blend in. You were called to lead. And whoever is called does not walk alone. He walks with purpose, and purpose has direction. To make sure you don't miss any of God's messages, click the subscribe button. Write "I'm ready" in the comments and start aligning your energy with the transformation that is coming. Chapter: From someone who puts up with everything to someone who leads the next step. For a long time, you learned to resist, to endure without complaining, to push through the days, even with a tight chest and a tired mind. You were called strong, a warrior, someone who can endure more than others. But the truth is that living like this exacts a high price. You become great at surviving, but you forget how to lead your own life. The time has come to turn that key. The sky didn't keep you standing just so you could keep defending yourself from life. All that resilience you've built up isn't your destiny. It was just training. Now begins the next stage. The moment when you stop being just the one who endures and become the one who guides. True leaders don't just come from victories. They come from the scars they've learned to teach. Every pain you've overcome, every fall you've risen from, every night that ended in silent tears, it all built something inside you that now needs to come out. This is where the transition happens. Being guided by faith does not mean living on impactful phrases or empty religious gestures. It means having clarity in the midst of confusion, firmness even without applause, and conviction even when faced with doubt. You start to act not based on reaction, but on direction. In Romans 8:37 it is written, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." This means you didn't just overcome, you were transformed by what you faced. And it is precisely this transformation that qualifies you to lead others. What was once pain now becomes a map. What used to make you cry now becomes a bridge for someone to cross with less fear. You are not just receiving something from above. You are being positioned as a reference, as a living sign that it is possible to emerge from chaos with dignity and faith. According to studies published by the American Psychological Association, APA, individuals who are able to reinterpret their adversities as purpose-forming experiences have greater emotional stability and community leadership skills. In other words, those who go through the fire with awareness come back with authority. You no longer belong to the survival phase. The time has come to build, to take on positions where your voice has weight, where your experience becomes direction. And now, the world needs voices like yours more than ever. Not those who shout, but those who live with coherence. The new identity is not just a spiritual garment, it is your new position. You are no longer a hostage of what happened to you. You are now a guide with living evidence that faith, when well directed, transforms destinies. If you feel this calling within you, subscribe to the channel and write "I am chosen" in the comments. Declare that you are ready to receive what is already in store for you. Chapter: When heaven invests, everything changes. You're not hearing this by coincidence, it's not luck or a passing fancy. What's happening now is the beginning of a real turning point. Your life is crossing an invisible threshold, the point at which going from surviving to living with purpose is no longer a theory, it's a moving fact. Stop trying to justify what you carry. It's time to ask permission to dream. What you have is not just talent or goodwill. It's a sealed mission, shaped by everything you've faced so far. Now, understand clearly, it is no longer about chasing after. It is about responding to what is already being delivered. When heaven takes over financing your journey, doors open without you having to knock. The right connections appear. Solutions arrive before problems even arise. And this is not magic. It is alignment. But alignment requires action. It requires clarity. There is no point in continuing to wait for a bigger sign while ignoring the small beginnings that are right before your eyes. Faith that only waits and never moves becomes an illusion. It is time to walk as one who understands that he has already been set free. You are not being tested. You are being set free to build. The opportunities that are coming your way are not random. They were tailor-made for who you are becoming. So don't try to fit back into places where your voice was silenced. Don't return to cycles that normalize doubt. The new that is coming needs space. And you need to decide whether you will continue to shrink or whether you will finally occupy the space that was destined for you. And here is the simple and harsh truth. Either you take a stand now, or you will see other people moving forward with ideas that were born in you, but were paralyzed by fear. Those who have been called remain silent for a short time, because the call presses, bothers, and sooner or later, demands a response. The question remains, will you continue waiting for the right moment, or will you assume that the time has already come? You have been prepared. You have been set apart. And now all that is left is a decision. To move forward with the certainty that heaven has already begun to move what you need. And those who understand this will never return to stagnation. The new phase is not coming. It has already begun. The next step depends on you. The awakening continues. If this video opened your eyes to truths you had never seen before, imagine what else you can discover. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any life-changing content.